My name is Doug, and I have a question for all of the candidates.
Can you speak right into the mic, please? It's a bit... can't hear.
Do you consider it to be hypocritical for the Canadian government to go to war in Libya to allegedly protect civilian lives from a brutal crackdown against a rebellion while ignoring similar abuses in other countries and in other war situations? For example, I was thinking of the invasion of Iraq, which resulted in 1 million dead, 4 million refugees, and yet I don't recall the Canadian government protesting that. In fact, I believe we had Canadian armed forces personnel serving in Iraq under regular exchange programs.
Okay, thanks. Sonny.
Well, of course, the Green Party, we support protecting civilians, but we believe that Canada's role in Libya should be a primarily diplomatic one. I mean, let's face facts. The United States is going to achieve its military objectives or not achieve its military objectives, whether or not our 6 planes are there, okay? The outcome of this battle does not hinge on Canadian military participation in Libya. I think one of the reasons the Canadian military is there right now so that when the U.S. has a press release, they can refer to an international coalition as opposed to a unilateral U.S. action. I think although our diplomatic image has been tarnished in the world by recent governments, we still tend to punch above our weight diplomatically. And let's not forget that Gaddafi has responded to diplomatic efforts in the past. I mean, he scrapped his nuclear program, not because we were dropping bombs on it at the time, but because of diplomatic efforts.
I do believe that that our diplomatic capabilities has been eroded over the years. I believe that the multilateral capabilities of dealing with the kinds of issues that have developed, the deprivation of human rights and the kind of things that have happened in all of those countries that we have witnessed recently, requires a more intuitive and capable and professional role. And that is not being done by other countries. And Canada always occupied that space. And I would like to see a renaissance of opportunity at the diplomatic level for us to play a much higher role. We must always honor our NATO and United Nations obligations, but the formation and the consolidation of peacekeeping forces and the ability to deploy them to protect human rights, along with a high level of diplomatic capability, is not the higher order of the day right now. And I'm very, very concerned about it in terms of international peace and future generations and the price we'll have to pay. Thank you.
The people in the countries that we are currently engaged in seem to have indicated quite loudly and strongly that they want out from under a brutal regime. I don't necessarily agree that we should be dropping bombs on them to get them out from under a brutal regime. I think diplomatically is one way, peacekeepers is another way, but, and you talked about Iraq, Canada didn't go to war with Iraq, although there were some exchange things going on. We deliberately stayed out of the U.S. invasion of Iraq, and I think that was the right decision at the time. I think that Canada in the Middle East is going to be become a place where oil interests rule the day, not what people need for their governments. That's what's going on in the Middle East, that's what's been going on in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and a whole raft of countries in the Middle East. And until we all come to realize that's what's going on, and until we all stop our dependence on oil, we're going to continue to have to make these tough choices about defending people in places like Libya. Thanks.
Thank you. What? Yep.
354.
354. Right. Oh, you are getting a chance. Okay.
Queen Via Sailor, Charter Moor. Since all my
Could you speak into the
concerns-
mic, please? I don't think everyone can hear. Thanks,
Since all of my other concerns were, have already been addressed by other residents, I would like to address the criminal justice. Do you support the construction of new prisons despite declining crime rates? Or do you support a restorative justice approach, one aimed at both promoting safer communities and helping prisoners towards positive change?
Thank you. Alan?
All right. Our leader and our party, and in fact the House and the opposition, combined opposition, this is one issue that is drawing us together. The evidence is that the projection that and priority that the government is placing on the refitting and the building of new prisons is inconsistent with the evidence that this will not continue to lower the rate of criminal activity. And so, you know, my answer is that that we have to invest in rehabilitation, we have to invest in more law enforcement, and we have to invest in communities to be able to participate through their educational system, so on, and making sure that crime does not occur in the schools or in the vicinity of schools. We have to protect our young people, but at the end of the day, if young people don't go to prison as criminals, they come out as criminals. So rehabilitation and prevention has to be the higher order of the day. Thank you.
We don't need to spend billions of dollars on new jails when our crime rates are declining. It's just dumb. It's a conservative platform promise aimed at a law and order agenda that isn't necessary in Canada. Canada is actually a very quiet, peaceful country. In the cities, there's a little more crime than there is in the country, but it's about the same everywhere. And we do believe in the NDP in restorative justice, in a criminal justice system that is geared towards rehabilitating people to preventing crime in the first place. My son-in-law is a police officer, and for a long time up in Jane and Finch, the police officers would go into homes and read stories to 10 and 11-year-old boys, very deliberately, at night, so that those kids wouldn't be out forming gangs or becoming lured into gangs. Those kinds of measures are what needs to happen in order to prevent the crime that we find, and in order to make sure that our society and our cities are as safe as they can be.
So, restorative justice, excuse me, some water just went down the way. Restorative justice is part of the Green Party platform, specifically addressed to minor crimes. I think the massive incarceration project by the Harper government is, precisely the wrong thing to do. We don't need to be spending billions of dollars. If you go down to Mimico, you can see one of the, US-style super jails that they're building, right? And these, don't prevent crime. They manufacture hardened criminals. We have a plan to give police officers and Crown attorneys the tools they need to go after gang leaders, to go after white-collar crime, to actually dismantle criminal organizations, as opposed to just, throwing a whole lot of Canadians in jail like they do in the United States. And we would also provide guidance to judges making bail determinations to avoid the release of violent offenders when there's risk of reoffending. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last question, I think.